In this video lesson, I'm going to teach you the secret to Tai Chi balance, stability, and superior energy flow. And it all has to do with the tailbone. So if you want to know once and for all what to do with your caboose in Tai Chi, stick around. Hi everybody, it's David-Dorian Ross from david-dorianross.com and taijifit.net, and welcome to another lesson in learning Tai Chi at home. Today is day number 46 of 100 Days of Tai Chi, which is a video series covering the traditional long form of Yang-style Tai Chi. Now before we get started, let me just say that if you're a beginner and this is your first time here and you'd like to learn Tai Chi at home, or if you're a more advanced student and what you're looking for are tips and insights to complement the lessons that you're learning with your teacher, then you can get started right now. All you have to do is click the subscribe button and the little bell icon so that you'll never miss another lesson. Now in today's video lesson, I'm actually teaching you 3 moves in a row, and they are Ban Lan Chui, which we also call deflect downward, parry, and punch, the apparently closing movement, and the cross hands. So why are we doing so many all at once? Well, first of all, they're all moves that we've done before, so they should all be pretty familiar to you. And number 2, these 3 movements complete the second section of the long form that we've been working on for so long. By the way, if this is your first time here, you might be feeling like you just walked into a movie and sat down right in the middle. So don't worry, I'm going to put a link above, whatever the above is, to the first video in this series so that you can start from the beginning and get caught up. And finally, today is Thursday, which means it's time for the Tai Chi skills tip of the week, which, as I mentioned in the introduction, is all about the alignment of the tailbone. So if you're ready, let's get started with the lesson. Today is a very special day in our series because we are learning 3 movements in a row, and these 3 movements that we learn will take us to the end of section 2 of the long form. Section 2 has been a really long section, especially compared to section 1, which seemed to be over in 17 movements, but now we're up to movement number 54. So this is going to be movement number 52, 53, and 54 altogether. Now the good news is they're movements that we've done already because it consists of Ban Lan Chui, which means deflect downward, parry or reposition, and punch, and then apparently closing, and finally cross hands again. This is exactly the same way that the first section ended. So let's take a look at the demonstration of these movements and then we'll go and break it down. Now the footwork in this series of movements starts from the end of the kick right here. So the kick has come out, then the knee bends, and the right foot is going to step down. Now it steps down not in line with the supporting leg, but slightly to the side. This is in preparation for the eventual bow step that comes along. Now, as I'm going to say in a minute about body turn, everything turns to the right, which includes the right foot pivoting to point at 45 degrees. And the weight shifts onto the right foot, and the left foot steps forward into a bow step, creating that Taichi Lunge. Now from this Taichi Lunge, it's very simple. The feet don't step anymore, but the body shifts back, rotates, rotates, then shifts forward again to recreate the bow step, the Tai Chi Lunge. Then finally, for cross hands, sit back, and the left toes will turn in. They will pivot inward, and then shift back to the left foot so that the right foot can reposition itself in the cross hands position. Now the hands are what seems to be doing an awful lot of movement in this combination here. But if you think back and separate the movements out one by one, you'll see that it's no more complicated than what we've already done here. I'm going to begin facing you so that you can see where all the hands are going in the extension of the kick. So that's right foot kicks with heel, right? Then the knee's going to bend and the foot's going to step down. And as the foot steps down, these two hands also drop. They drop so that they get into this position where the right hand is palm down, left hand is palm up, and then begin to make this arc down, around, and over the top. As the two hands pass by the hip, the right hand makes a fist. Now this corresponds with the pivot of the right foot all the way around, and the left hand will continue to extend forward. And the left hand stays right there. Left hand remains in place while the right hand punches past it. I'll back up a little bit here so you can see what happens next. What happens next is that the left hand slips underneath. You actually have to pivot, sliding on top of the forearm there, so that the hand goes now palm up underneath. Now the two hands are palm up and they slide and separate. I begin to withdraw, and as I do so, my hands turn palm out, sort of preparatory to a push. My waist turns to the right. As it turns back and squares up, my hands reposition themselves so that they are square at the chest. So they were a little bit offset, then they square up, and then as I shift forward for the push, they both ride that push together evenly. Okay, now I'm going to have to turn around so that you can see what happens next. Here I am at the end of the push. As I sit back and turn towards the middle, the two hands separate. Actually, the left hand remains as it was, but the right hand moves away from it until I am at 10 and 2 o'clock, right? Just 90 degrees away from each other. That's a 90-degree angle there, right? Then as I step in, repositioning the right foot, the two hands arc down and cross and arc up until they are right in front of the chest. Hands crossed. And that's the right hand, which is on the outside, and the left hand closest to the chest. Here's the hand motion all together from the proper angle. Now, as always, the linking piece between the hand movements and the footwork is the movement of the torso. Now, I have to say that I'm sort of using generic and very sort of everyday terms for, the different parts of the body, which are actually called specific names in Tai Chi, in Chinese. So the proper term for the movement of the torso here is the waist turn and then also the hips turn, because the waist and the hips sometimes connect and move together, and sometimes they move as separate parts of the body. But generally speaking, we always refer to the torso movement as the waist turn. So the waist turns in this series of movements in this way. We are starting off with the body positioned at a 45-degree angle relative to the lane of travel. So the first thing that's going to happen is that the body is going to rotate, turning from this 45-degree to this 45-degree angle. That happens to cause the pivoting of the foot. When we talked about the foot pivots to turn out before the step, well, it's actually caused by the waist turn here. So first things first, we have a turning of the torso here. Now, we can see this as sort of a counter rotation, preparing for the next movement, which is the punch. And the punch rotates back to the left again. So I've got the body turning in this direction. Now, in this case, I don't go all the way to the 45. I stop when the body is squared off down the lane here. That's the end of my punch. As I shift back now, the body turns, the waist turns towards the right again, just 45 degrees. This is during the withdrawal. Then, before I shift forward, it squares up, and then the whole body, the center of gravity, moves forward. Finally, for the cross hands, I sit back again, my body stays squared up, and then turns to the right until it faces straight forward. This is the same direction as the open the door position, and centers itself for cross hands. Right? Here it is one more time facing you this way. At the end of the kick, my body's actually angled towards 45. It's not at 90, and it's not squared up towards the kick. The body, my head is turned to look over the kick, but my body is at 45. Right? Comes in, steps down. Now it turns to this 45. Stepping forward, it squares off. That's with the punch. Coming back, it turns to the right, squares up, forward, and then sits back, opens to the cross hands movement here. One more time, just so that you can see the body position. Now, and I'm going to flip the camera so that you can follow me just the waist turn. Now, the final thing that we want to capture is the transition from the previous movements into this last combination. So what we want to do is we want to start from the end of the kick with left heel, the turn around, and then the beginning of Ban Lan Chui, apparent closing, and cross hands. All right, so pay attention to the weight shift here in the stepping. So I start with the end of kick with left heel. That right foot folds in, then sits back and comes all the way across. Now, one thing that we want to point out is that the conclusion of this spin has the left foot pointing at 45 degrees. That sets up my whole body for the next right foot kick. Fold in, step down, circle around, punch. And there you have it. That is the final 3 movements of section 2 of the 103 movement long form. Man, congratulations. This time tomorrow, we're going to be starting with section 3. Now, let's go talk about the skills tip of the week. When you're a beginner in Tai Chi, you often feel like you're always struggling to find your balance and keep your balance, like within the spins and kicks. Also, you're always still trying to develop the feeling of what we call the root, which is a feeling of being grounded and stable. Now, traditionally, Tai Chi teaches us that the solution to these problems is in the alignment of the spine. The spine is where the Qi, the energy, runs through, and the Qi is what's going to keep us strong and aligned. Now, the human spine is curved like an S, and this curvature is absolutely essential to bearing weighted loads, think building the pyramids, or even just withstanding the force of gravity. And the biggest curve is right here at the low back. But too much curve, or the inability to change the amount of curve, can cause a weakness, or what's worse, a bottleneck in the flow of the Qi energy. So in Tai Chi, we work on developing a more even spinal alignment, flattening out the lower curve, especially when we're creating certain postures that reflect certain martial techniques. Now, all of that sounds very complicated, so we just try to make it simpler by saying, pay attention to where the tailbone is pointed. Now, here's the thing. I've heard from for a long, long time from many different Tai Chi instructors to tuck the tailbone. Heck, I've even said that myself, because tucking the tailbone will point the tailbone and flatten out the lower curve and make your butt tuck in and not stick out. But this is an absolutely inaccurate and misleading instruction. So today's Tai Chi skills tip is a better way, and it's called dropping the tailbone. The idea is to relax the muscles and the tendons that lie along the side of the spine and pulls the spine into that arch, which also, by the way, lifts your tuchus into the air. When you relax those muscles, everything drops and the whole pelvis rotates downward, and the tailbone feels like it's literally, this was a tailbone, dropping right into a slot, thereby connecting the rest of your spine into the supporting leg structure and making it very strong and stable and continuous. So as you can see, I brought out a chair here. The chair makes a very nice prop for this exercise. And what I want you to do is to stand on one leg and lift one foot up in the air, just like you're about to do one of your kicks, or in a movement that we'll learn later on this form, a move called the golden rooster stands on one leg. Now, the reason why I start out and I teach this tailbone drop in this position is that you have a set of muscles right here in the front part of the hip joint, and they are in opposition to the muscles back here in the part of the spine that we're trying to relax. And what happens is that when muscles are placed in opposition to each other, only one set of muscles can be active at one time. It inhibits the other muscles from tightening up. So literally by lifting one foot up, I'm already relaxing these. Now, in the future, what we want to do is to be in mental control of that relaxation. But we start out by setting in motion what the body has already given us. So now I lift this knee, support myself here on the chair. Already I can feel the muscles in my spine relaxing. Having felt that, I'm just going to kind of push the back part of my back, not my tailbone, not my glutes, not my tuchus here, but the mid-back, pushing it out away from me, and I'll feel the whole pelvic structure rotating and my tailbone then dropping down. So now I'm searching around a little bit for that feeling of it's connecting to the supporting leg. And when I feel that connection, it's almost like the tailbone itself has dropped right into a slot. If you get tired on one foot, turn the chair around. Again, lifting this knee, these muscles have to go into activation to lift the knee up in the first place, and that already starts to relax those muscles in the small of the back. Now I'm pushing the low back out until, there it is. It just dropped into that slot. Now I feel like there's a, you might even be able to see it if I turn around here, a continuous structure from the top of my head down through my spine, a little bit flat low back into the supporting leg. I could just stand here all day because it's so strong. Moreover, the theory is that when you flatten out that low back, you eliminate some of that curve, you get the hips to be involved here, the chi begins to run in a continuous line up and down the body, and it's the chi which provides us with the real stability here. Now, this isn't the only position in which you're going to find the tailbone drop. In fact, every place that we create a position for Tai Chi, like my bow step, I'm also searching for that slot, right? As I move backwards, my low back pushes out to help that tailbone drop here. As I shift forward, I'm leaning into it, but I'm also dropping that tailbone. Now, here's a little bit more of an advanced tip. Just one more thing to make you think about this. It won't feel the same in every position, right? It just can't, because anatomically your body is moving into places where it can't, the hips can't rotate as much as they do in other positions. So sometimes you'll feel that tailbone drop deeply into the slot. Sometimes it'll feel like a little bit of surface in the slot. But if you practice this, it'll solve the problem of your balance, your root stability, and most important, the chi flow. And there's your Tai Chi skills tip for this week. Practice this and your Tai Chi will be better. Now, today's question of the day for you is not really a question per se, but it is sort of an invitation. I'm gonna, kind of like homework in a way, invite you to try this, and then I'd love to hear how it went for you. Write your your comments, your questions, your ahas, your complaints, your curiosities. Write that down in the comment section below there, and we'll kind of continue to talk about it. I'll talk about it with you in the comment section, but then we'll also talk about it in the next lesson. All right, that's all the time for I've got today. In fact, I literally have to run off and teach class at the Academy right now. So if this was your first time visiting this lesson, I hope that you had a great time. And if you did have a good time, I'm hoping that maybe you'll drop down there and give us a thumbs up on that. That would be really wonderful. Thank you. Also, if this is your first time and you enjoyed this lesson, then just go ahead and click that subscribe button so that you can participate in even more lessons. I put one up almost every day, and I'd love to share more Tai Chi with you. For those of you who've been watching faithfully, you guys know how much I love you and appreciate you. Thank you for all of your support. Thank you for your continued interest in Tai Chi, which means to me, thank you for the opportunity to share my Tai Chi with you. I really appreciate that. Hope you have a wonderful evening and a great morning, and I'll see you in the next lesson.